Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I wanted to share something with you guys that I found amusing but still informative that was posted by Dr. Mike Israetel. And remember, this is coming from someone who actually does have a PhD in biomechanics, as a professor of exercise science, as well as a competitive athlete, bodybuilder, and coach. Somebody who has all the credentials in the world. But there are 4 reasons for a person to not touch their chest when doing some sort of barbell overhead press. Because we see a lot of guys who short rep these. Number 1, you're hurt or injured. You have some sort of damage to your shoulders or to your body that prevents you physically from doing so. Number 2, you're not mobile enough or flexible enough to do so. And if you aren't, then there's a problem with your overall fitness, because fitness, this community seems to misunderstand and think fitness is about being really lean and ripped. That's not necessarily true. Fitness has to do with your overall function and health. So if you're fit, you're flexible, mobile, strong, fast, have good endurance, and good blood markers on your blood work so that you're healthy also. That's what fit actually means. And if you can't do something as simple as touch a barbell to your chest, odds are your overall flexibility and mobility are suffering, and therefore you're not truly fit. Number 3, you're just too big to do so. And guys who are weighing 200, 220 pounds really can't use that excuse. When we mean too big to do so, he's talking about guys like Phil Heath, guys like Ronnie Coleman. Those guys are probably too big in many cases to touch their chest with a barbell on any sort of overhead press, but even some of those guys can still do it. So there are exceptions even to that rule. And number 4, you're just being a little bitch who wants to try to use big boy weight, but you haven't put in your dues and the time to be strong enough to actually do so. Now, the latter is an important point, because here's what it comes down to. Any sort of barbell overhead press, as we have seen throughout the decades and the generations of lifters, is a tremendous upper body size and strength builder. It's not necessarily just a shoulder exercise. It is an exercise for your entire upper body, with most of the focus being upon your entire shoulder girdle, your triceps, and your upper chest. And particularly things like the upper chest do not get worked as much, and a lot of the support muscles that could really develop and get bigger and stronger from the overhead press do not get worked to the same degree if you skip the bottom of the range of motion. The other thing to consider there is, from the injury side of it, is that if you're only doing partials, you're stopping at your ears or your nose or your chin before you come up each time, you are over time training yourself to only use the weight through the part of the range of motion. You're going to get weaker and not develop strength, usually beyond about 15 degrees from where you stop. You're not going to develop any strength through there. And so you're not only tightening up all of that, the connective tissue and the range of motion, you're actually not gaining strength through there. So if something ever happens and your spotters start messing up, or they miss something, or you're not pressing off pins, and remember, pressing off pins over time beats up your joints also. So what's going to happen is that you're predisposing yourself to an injury there if something goes wrong, because you're using a weight that's maybe 20% heavier than you're actually capable of lifting. Something goes wrong, the weight gets pushed down, you're too tight from not training the full range of motion and no strength through it, and you end up snapping something. And then you go back to point number 1 of being one of the guys who's too injured to do it. That's oftentimes how the guys get injured who can't do it anymore. They've messed up at some point. What you're going to find, though, is that with any exercise, what people forget is that it's not always about how much weight you move. It's how far of a range of motion, how far you move it, that determines a lot of your development and strength and your function. And so if you are using a heavier weight at the expense of full range of motion, you're not always getting the development and strength and function that you should be getting from an exercise. And the overhead press is definitely one of those. And the thing to remember, if you want to actually just focus upon the top part of the movement more while maintaining the strength and the mobility at the bottom, and turn it into an explosive power movement with using a heavier weight than you can use strictly, then that's where the push press comes in. The push press shines at that. It does everything that you would want to do from doing the partial overhead press, but it still allows you to develop the strength and the mobility through the full range of motion while still overloading the top part of the movement. And you're going to get a lot better results from doing a push press than you're going to get from doing these partials with the overhead press. So again, there's no real reason for people to be doing partials on this exercise. Do the full range of motion. And if you want to focus more upon overloading the top part, that's where the push press really shines, because it removes the other negatives from doing the partial. All right, guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.